Hi there. Thank you so much for popping in for this little talk, workshop, whatever you want to call it. I'm happy to have you here and I'm happy to share um, my thoughts and insights on finding your flow in life and in business. So, this has been the leading passion of my life and my journey because my life started with very little flow. It actually started with a lot of struggle, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. And for a long part of my life, I would say up till my mid 20s, I felt like I was never going to find my place in this world. Like I was never going to find the thing that was going to drive me, that was going to fulfill me. Um, I just felt like this lost soul kind of randomly floating around the earth trying to find my way. And it was a long, difficult journey. And I would say I actually really only felt in my true flow and fulfilled in the last maybe 3 to 5 years. So the reason I'm sharing this is, as entrepreneurs, I think one of the most important things to remind ourselves of is that this journey is messy. And it is not meant to be a perfect way forward. And what's happened in the last decade with the online world, just, expanding a lot and taking a lot of importance in the entrepreneurial world, is we are only seeing sort of the front side of things, right? And so there's a lot of information missing in the entrepreneurial journey. And we're sort of being taught this idea that success comes really quickly, that if we follow this strategy or that strategy that we're going to access success, and that it's going to be this big aha moment, and we're going to make a lot of money and just land in this very successful place. And this idea has always bothered me a lot because, one, for me, this idea that the entrepreneurial journey just, we just, follow this strategy or implement this marketing thing and that we're going to be successful and all will be good, is very sort of distorted. And it's also not, in my perspective, the most exciting path to success, right? So if everything was that easy, what would be left for us in our growth and transformation? There would be not very much left. And it's just not the reality of how finding your flow and finding your path and doing your most impactful work is. If we think about leaders that we admire and that inspire us, and for me, I always go back to the same two because they've been my anchor throughout my whole entrepreneurial journey. I've been in business for over 12 years now. It's Oprah and Richard Branson. These are my two, I would say, celebrity mentors. And both are extremely successful today. And I'm actually going to add to that Cesar Millan because I really, really, really love Cesar Millan. For those who know me personally, I post about him a lot. I talk about him a lot. There's many reasons why I admire this man, but these three people for me are all people who have shared the in-betweens of their success. And, Richard Branson at one point in his business literally had no money. Like, he was begging a bank to loan him a really big sum of money so that he can continue his business journey. And he fought for it and he believed in himself, but it was a really messy moment. It was a really scary and messy moment. If you've ever read his books, he talks about it a lot. Like, we would have never thought that, someone like Richard Branson, who's extremely successful today, living on his own island, got to a point where he literally didn't know if he was going to be able to continue because he did not have enough money to even pay his bills. Oprah, I remember sharing in one of her books this moment in her career where things were going so badly that I don't know how long it lasted, but she was literally in bed every day sobbing. That was, a messy moment for Oprah. Cesar Millan, he did his Dog Whisperer show and was super successful, and ended up finding out that he was actually not the owner of his show. And after all of those years, when the show ended, he had no money. At the same time, his wife divorced him, and his dog Daddy died, and he tried to commit suicide. So I think it's important to remember this so that we can keep sort of refining and mastering our own flow and not getting sort of bent up or discouraged about these moments of messiness. These moments of messiness are the most beautiful, important moments in our journey. I'm always so excited to hear stories of people that go from breakdown to breakthrough. I truly believe that our breakdowns in our life are there to help us have a massive breakthrough and a massive shift, massive moment of growth and evolution and transformation. So knowing that, you can relax into your journey a little bit more. And the more we relax into our journey and the less we micromanage everything that's in front of us or anything that we want to make happen, the easier we're going to find our flow. And finding your flow or being in flow is not something that you attain one time and you're just in it and you stay in it for the rest of time. Finding your flow is a daily practice. It is one of deep, intuitive listening. And I want to talk a little bit more about this because for me, intuition is the guiding force behind everything I do. And I believe that it's literally the answer to living your most aligned and expansive life. So when you listen and lead and live intuitively, you are following the most successful path or route for you. And this is where we get really confused in business, especially with the whole online world of business these days, is that we're shown to believe that, again, this strategy or this marketing thing is going to make us successful, or this person that we hire, this coach, this mentor, that whatever is the person that's going to make us successful. And if we move forward with a strategy or an action or an idea or a collaboration that does not feel good inside of us, it is not going to be sustainable. It is not going to work. It might work temporarily, but it'll probably feel hard. And you're going to feel it inside that it's just not the right path forward. So what's important is to tap into your intuition first. Like, how does this thing, this person, this experience, this collaboration feel in my body? Because our intuition speaks to us through our bodies, right? Our body is like our, it's like our remote control. Like it tells us when to stop, when to go, when to pause, when to turn up the volume, when to turn down the volume. So you need to listen to your intuition through your body. How are you feeling in your body? And we're all going to experience this very differently. For me, so I actually had a pretty massive nervous breakdown in 2019 from not listening to my intuition for a very long time. So this was in my personal life, so not in business. And for 4 years, I was ignoring my intuition that was telling me that I was in a situation that was not healthy, that was not for me, and that was not going to bring me joy, success, fulfillment, happiness. And so when I had that nervous breakdown, after it, I was getting these burning sensations through my arms every single day. I would wake up in the morning and I would just have this burning through my whole body, particularly my arms. And, I healed and did my whole journey of getting through that really difficult moment. And then after, what started to happen is that when I was engaging in something that was not aligned, that I knew in my body was not for me, or that my intuition was telling me like, I wouldn't go there. I don't think this is your place for a very long time. And I would still continue to move forward. I would get those burning sensations in my arms again. So it's really interesting. Our body is extremely wise, and it will always, always nudge us and tell us what we need to know. The important thing is that we need to listen to it, and we need to slow down enough to be able to actually feel into and listen to our intuition. If we are going all the time, and we're not taking moments to pause and to slow down and to like step away from a situation or step away from our work, we're going to miss important information, because it's like there's no space for the intuition to speak to us, because when we have so much cortisol running through our body, it makes it harder to feel things, because all we can feel is like what we're used to feeling on the day to day. And if we come back to these three people that I admire a lot, Richard Branson, Oprah, and Cesar Millan, all of these people have built the life and businesses that they have from intuition. These are three highly intuitive leaders and entrepreneurs. So, and again, it would be worth, reading their stories. Or if there's someone that you very much admire, I would recommend digging into their stories, because I would say mostly the people that I've seen who are successful have really led from intuition. Cesar Millan had this insight one day when he was living in Mexico that he had to go to the United States and jump the border. And he was, I think, like 13 or something. He was very young, and he told his parents that he was going, and they completely supported him. And his dad gave him $100, and he went to the borders, and he found this coyote to help him cross the border. And literally the guy who helped him cross the border was like the one person that everyone would have told him to not follow. He looked dangerous. He was dirty. He was skinny. He was like, the kind of person that you would think like he would take your money and then try to kill you after, kind of thing. That's the story that he tells. But in that moment, his intuition said like, this is the guy. This is the person who's going to help me, go through. And he tried to go through before that for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it didn't work. And when he met this guy, although physically he looked like exactly the wrong person to follow, intuitively, he knew that this was the person that he needed to follow. And, the rest is history. This is the guy who helped him cross the border. This is the guy. And the guy charged him, without knowing how much Cesar Millan had in his pocket, or in his shoe actually, charged him $100 exactly to cross the border. And Oprah's story, there's so many intuitive stories about how Oprah led her career and how she ended up creating her own show and just listened to her gut and moved to Chicago and all those things. And same thing with Richard Branson. I mean, starting at a very young age, when he literally dropped out of high school. He was dyslexic, and he started his own magazine as his first little business. And from there, I mean, he literally had, barely any education. His whole entire path was intuitive, right? He just listened to his gut about what he thought or felt needed to happen next. And he just did that. And it was a lifetime of just doing what makes sense intuitively as your next step. So I think this is something really important to remember, because we're often thinking about the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 steps ahead of us. And although it's fun and exciting to plan, I love to envision things that I feel or want to see happen coming in my future. That moment doesn't exist yet, right? So we can plan and micromanage and try to manipulate that as much as we want, but it's not a moment in time that exists yet. So we're not dealing with real information. So the only thing that you can do is take your next intuitive step forward right now. And then after that step, you're going to take your next intuitive step forward, and so on. That is the only thing that you can do. That is your best strategy. It's going to be better than any marketing strategy or any course or any program that you pay thousands of dollars. It's intuitively, what is your gut telling you to do next? That is your that is your path forward, and that is how you find your flow. And that is what I was talking about this daily practice. Is like finding our flow, and being in flow is about consistently doing what feels intuitively right on a day-to-day basis. And this can be implemented in your personal life as well. Like, this is not just about business. This is like, it's like life wisdom. So I use this in my personal life. I use this approach in my business. I use this approach when I'm stuck. I use this approach when I want to create something. It's always the same process. And I'm actually going to share with you now this process that I developed, must have been like 7 or 8 years ago when I first became an entrepreneur as a yoga teacher. And I used to call it the art of making things happen through intention, action, and letting go. So this came to me intuitively, like I said, 7 or 8 years ago. It came to me when I was teaching yoga, and I had learned about Ayurveda. So I kind of built this concept around what I knew about intuition and then what I learned through Ayurveda and yoga. So Ayurveda is like this, it's like this Indian philosophy kind of medicine that is talked about a lot in yoga. But you don't need to understand all of Ayurveda. What you need to understand right now are the 3 doshas, which are Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. And these doshas are pretty much our human constitutions, what makes us up as human beings. And all of us generally have a little bit of each in us, but generally we have more of one in our constitution or in our personality than the others. That said, there are people who are tridoshic, who are like really even in Pitta, Vata, and Kapha. But it doesn't really matter which one you are. You can go do a test online and discover which one you are. It can give you a little bit of wisdom. But I use this more in a moment-to-moment energy of what I'm feeling and experiencing. So Pitta is related mostly to fire, the element of fire. So Pitta energy is the energy that gets us moving, that gets us taking action, that gets us doing things. It is related to like our solar plexus area. So it's our inner fire. It's what gets us to take leaps and take risks. All of that beautiful, juicy stuff. When Pitta is out of balance, meaning when we are too much in our Pitta energy, it shifts to the other side and can become something less constructive. So instead of looking like all of those beautiful things that I just said, it can look like anger, it can look like resentment, it can look like forcing things, micromanaging, impatience. In those moments when you're trying to achieve a goal, or you put something out into the world and it's not quite catching on, and you just keep like promoting it and promoting it and promoting it and like kind of forcing it onto people, and then you're getting frustrated because it's not working, and you just keep kind of pushing the idea forward, even though you're seeing that like there's something not working in it. That is when you sort of overdo your Pitta energy. And it can also turn into burnout and exhaustion. Vata energy is, so I always like to actually relate the doshas or these energies to the characters in Friends, in NBC Friends. So Pitta, Monica would be the Pitta girl, okay? The action taker, the doer, the Vata, I relate to Phoebe. Vata is the just very creative. It's related to the air element, mostly air and ether. Vata is like the easygoing, flowy, airy, creative, imaginative, visionary energy. And that energy is really beautiful for getting into your creative flow, taking some downtime, relaxing, enjoying life. It's one of my favorite energies, but it's one of the energies that actually gets out of balance the easiest. So When vata shifts to the other side and is out of balance, it turns into anxiety, scatteredness, lack of direction. Um, it can turn into also exhaustion a little bit, because if you just imagine, like, this energy like flying all over the place without any anchor, it can turn into like fatigue a little bit. Um, so that's what happens when the vata goes in, like shifts to the other side. Phoebe, imagine Phoebe in her best moment. Like, that's when the energy is in positive. Monica in her best moment, that's when the energy is in positive in Pitta. And the Kapha, I would relate to Ross. So Kapha is related to Earth mainly, and that is the very grounded energy. So that energy, when it's balanced and in the positive, it's going to look like being very calm, very structured, very organized. Just having like a clear plan, a clear path forward. When it shifts to the other side and becomes out of balance, it can look like feeling lethargic. It can feel like fatigue, depression, lack of motivation, just this general very sluggish energy. So how I use this process in my life is I'm always looking, when I'm when I'm in flow, I don't need to look at this, right? So when you're in flow, just enjoy your flow. There's whatever you're doing intuitively in that moment is working. It's great. Enjoy it. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to worry about. Just be in that. When you're feeling stuck, or when you're feeling like something is not moving forward, or when you're feeling like you want to, you're trying to achieve something and it's not quite working, or it doesn't quite feel right, this is when I want you to think about these three energies. And I want you to ask yourself, what is imbalanced right now? And what is the energy that I need to embody in order to get back into my flow? So I'm going to give you an example. If we talked to what we talked about before, where you're trying to make something happen and you're forcing it and you're micromanaging it and you're trying to manipulate it and you're trying to push it into existence, kind of thing. In that moment, so you're going to be experiencing the Pitta in the imbalanced, the imbalanced version of Pitta. So you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel tired, you're not going to be getting results, and you're going to feel like you're being forceful. In that moment, I would say the energy that you need is Kapha. So you need to put the fire down and you need to anchor into some earth energy and sit back and reflect. So Kapha is a very reflective energy. Sit back and observe a little bit. You need to let go. So, sorry, I'm just going to circle back for a moment because I forgot to attach one piece to these. Intention is Vata. Okay, so creative ideas, visioning, all of those things. Action is related to Pitta. It's the moving forward, is the taking action, is the doing. And letting go is the Kapha. It's the relaxing, it's the earth energy, it's the surrendering. So in that moment where you're forcing something into existence, or you're micromanaging and overdoing something, Kapha is what you need in as an energy to embody in that moment. What you need is letting go. You need to let go, you need to step back, you need to observe, and maybe take a moment to sit back and look at, how you planned this thing, how you have been putting it out into the world, and coming back to more of structure and organization and replanning maybe, but it's the letting go piece that needs to happen in this moment, right? So it's the same thing. If we use another super typical example, you meet someone, you're super excited, you have a huge crush, you go out on a first date, and you get home and then you're sitting at home waiting for the person to text you, and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and like literally cannot, stop holding your phone and looking at your phone waiting for the text message from the person. Like, that's overdose and pitta. In that moment, you need to just chill, kapha energy, let go, put the phone down, and then maybe move into some vata energy, some like creative, fun, explorative energy. And you don't always need to be embodying just one. You might need to be embodying a little bit of two energies. So in this moment, maybe it's a bit of kapha and a bit of vata that you need. If we look at a different example where potentially you have been just not taking any action for a really long time because you're scared to make a mistake, you're scared to do the wrong thing. This happens to me a lot in business. I get these intuitive sort of messages of like these directions I need to take, but then I'm scared to take the wrong direction. I'm scared to do the wrong thing. Well, what if this doesn't work? What if this falls flat? And then, spiraling in that fear, that's like excess kapha. And then I'm not doing anything. So I'm just turning and turning in my head with the idea of like wishing I would do it and envisioning like what it could become, but not actually taking action. And that can turn into like discouragement and lack of motivation and just losing your creative essence, right? And so in that moment, what I would need to do is like, I would need to embody some pitta. Just put something out there. Just take one action. What is the next thing right in front of you that you can do? And see what happens from there. I'm going to give you one more example of vata being imbalanced or in excess. So, and you'll probably be able to relate to this because this happens to a lot of us. We get these creative ideas. We're in these like creative flows, right? And we get all of these ideas and things we would like to implement. And we just stay in this creative space for too long, right? And we end up having too many ideas, and then there's just like too much circling around in our creative space, and we actually then get confused about what we actually want to do, and then we're not taking action. And that turns into anxiety, right? It's like, well, there's this thing I want to put out into the world, but like I have this idea and then this idea, and I want to do this thing, and then this could actually also be when we're looking at the next 50 steps ahead of us. So we're like getting in our creative flow a little bit too far ahead. And then we fall into anxiety. We just spiral in anxiety, and that can then throw us into kapha, actually. So like each excess in energy can throw us into another excess. So in that moment, I would also encourage you can do one of two things. You can either just take the initial idea and run with that initial idea and just start taking action one step at a time, or you can actually sit down and make a plan. Like, take all of those creative ideas, put them in a project management system. I know I love to put them in Asana for myself. I create a project and I just like map it all out, write it down in a journal, map it out on a piece of paper visually, make a vision board, something. Get the energy out of your head and ground it into something that is going to be actionable for you. So when you're in flow, you are embodying these three energies in a very organic and intuitive way, meaning, you're in your creative flow in the right moment. And then you step into, your planning or organizing or structuring your idea in the right moment. And then you're starting to take action in the right moment, right? So there's just this nice flow of going from each energy in the right time. And by the way, they're not always in perfect order, right? You can be flowing from, intention to letting go to action. That is your own intuitive flow. And you're going to know what needs to happen in each moment based on how you're feeling in your body when you're tapping in. And here's the thing. We have to get comfortable with the messiness that is ahead of us. If you want to achieve great things and create big impact in the world and build success for yourself and others, you have to be willing to get messy, to get your hands dirty, to take wrong turns. I don't believe that there are any mistakes in business. I know this sounds so, something we hear a lot, but there really aren't, and if you're not willing to sort of mess up a little bit and get messy, you're not going to have the opportunity to really be in the flow of your highest potential and highest expansion. So and also, like, for me, learning to really listen and trust my intuition came from making those quote unquote mistakes, which are not mistakes. It came from getting messy. It came from taking the wrong direction, doing the wrong thing. That's how I learned to navigate my intuition. Because now, if I would never have taken any actions or leaps, I would have not been able to decipher, like, oh, okay, well, in this moment, okay, that was actually not my intuition. It was my head speaking to me, right? Or it was my ego kind of guiding this thing forward. Or I would have not been able to decipher, like, well, oh, when I did this and and I was feeling this thing in my body that I wasn't sure what it was, that was actually my intuition telling me to stop or not move forward. So let yourself be in that flow. Let yourself experience life to the fullest. For me, listening to my intuition means living life at its fullest, because intuition is not always convenient. It's rarely logical. And what we're being asked to do rarely makes sense. So you need to be able to get out of your head and into your body to actually be able to take some leaps and take some risks in order to live your most aligned and expansive life. That is how it's done. And each moment of messiness, each misstep, each wrong turn is literally going to walk you through the most important growth and transformation of your life. Like, you need these moments. Without them, if you are always trying to just stay safe on your journey, you're going to miss out on a lot of growth. You're going to miss out on a lot of expansion. So for me, finding your flow and being in flow is leading and living your life intuitively, no matter what that looks like and no matter what that means in every moment, and trusting yourself and trusting your intuition and being comfortable with the discomfort and being comfortable with the messiness that might be ahead, but that is leading you to your most aligned and expansive path and your most aligned and expansive life. So I hope that this was inspiring and helpful for you. It's such an honor to be here to talk about this. It has literally been my life's work, and I don't see myself doing anything else moving forward. This is literally the common thread through everything I do and everything I've done, whether I was a yoga teacher or, a business leader, a business manager, whatever it was. This was always the common thread through the work that I do, because it's what led me to the freedom that I feel that I have today. And that freedom for me is a freedom to be, do, and express myself in a way that feels aligned in each moment, not logical, but aligned. And it has led me to live a life on my terms and to keep accessing opportunities and collaborations and experiences that feel expansive instead of, contractive. And I think that there's just too many of us that are boxing ourselves into these things that we think we should be doing, or these marketing strategies that we think are going to make ourselves successful, or these programs that are going to be like, our path to success or the key to success. The only key to success that exists is the one inside of you, and it's your intuition. So I really hope that this is going to inspire you to lead and live more intuitively, to let your life get messy, to embrace the, ups and the downs, the breakdowns, whether they are big ones or small ones, to embrace the wrong turns, to see them as moments of growth and expansion and transformation. And I look forward to continuing to connect with you. And I will see you maybe on the podcast. You can find me on Finding Your Flow, the podcast. And on social media, I always love to connect on social media. You can find me on Instagram at jennifer.jane.young. Feel free to DM me there, and we'll speak soon.